Peace of mind is worth a lot.
Vietnam or Thailand were to relax, you would be in a really key position to just slide right over the border.
Last couple of years I lived in China, things were just getting so dodgy.
That makes Cambodia very valuable. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's everybody's favorite international fixer and misfit. We are here with one of the more exciting conversations of the week. We're going to talk to the first person to fully go through the process of using our Cambodia service. We're going to give a little bit of clarity on the process, applying for a business visa to enter Cambodia, what both of us have had to do, the differences between our experiences, what documents were needed, and what I'm seeing with the new customers that we've had since we've been working together. So Paul here is my first guy that we ran through our Cambodia service. We're the first person we've been able to get his business visa set up. We're starting to arrange employment, housing, people who are local fixers for him. He's getting his whole move set up. So we want to take you through what he's experienced so far so that it can help you guys on your journey, whether you're working with me or you're working on your own or you're trying to use somebody else. At least you got a clear path forward of what other people are experiencing while applying for this visa. And like I said, I am also returning to Cambodia. I will be flying next week. By the time you see this video, I'll already be there. So we're going to have a lot of clarity for you coming in the future. I guess let's start by saying, Paul, can you tell me a little bit about what you've had to provide in terms of documents? So we started the process. We set you up with our contacts. What kind of documentation did you need to show them?
I don't really think I had to send a whole, I think I had to send a picture of my passport.
Okay, right.
And I think that was really about it, to be honest.
That's it, motherfuckers. He's only got to send a picture of his passport.
I'm like, yeah, that's it. Picture the passport.
Yeah, it's easy peasy. It's nothing like doing business with Vietnam. He just sent through the photo of the passport. How many days before our invitation letter showed up?
See, but after I made the payment, the invitation letter showed up in, I think, 2 or 3 days.
Everything looked legit. Like right away, you saw it had seals on it from the government. It was an official invitation letter with a business license.
Absolutely. I mean, it looked legit to me. I wouldn't really know what legit looked like. But soon after I got it, the embassy here in the USA, they have you send everything online, like photos and things like files online first, so they can pre-screen it to make sure it's okay. I sent everything to them that they asked for, and in like 3 hours, I had an approval.
Yeah, see, guys, this is what I'm saying. So you can look around on Facebook pages and take your chances, but here's living proof that we put somebody through with a business visa. They got the paperwork, they applied for it, they had the visa in 3 days. Personally, when I applied for the visa I'm entering on next week, I initially got my invitation letter from the same contact. That's one of the ways we were able to start offering this to other people, is Paul and I were the space monkeys. We were the first ones to go through the tunnel. I got my approval, and much like Paul's situation, I applied in Europe. I went to the consulate there. I didn't go in person. I sent everything through DHL. But when I got into contact with these people, everything was done for me in like 3 days. I thought I was going to be waiting longer, bro. It took even DHL. It took like a day to get to Berlin from where I'm at in the Balkans. And then within like that next Monday, I think I sent it on like a Thursday. Monday, I had a visa.
Yep.
So these are legit, guys. These are the real deal. So what's making you want to go to Cambodia now?
Well, I like Southeast Asia a lot. I lived in China for 8.5 years, and almost exactly 2 years ago, when the plague hit, I thought, okay, this is a good time to come back home for a visit, because I had work off because they were just starting the Chinese New Year. So I came back home for a visit, and I've been stuck here ever since. It wasn't long after that, like after it started to spread in China, then it started to spread to the rest of the world. And that's when like all hell broke loose and everybody was stuck where they were. I've been wanting to get back to Southeast Asia for a while. I didn't want to go back to China because things were getting more and more dodgy there. The attitude towards foreigners has been getting worse over the years. I really started to put my focus into Vietnam, actually. And I'd been thinking about moving to Vietnam before I left China anyway. So I come back here and, I'm thinking, okay, well, things will open up soon. I'm doing my research. I'm looking at Vietnam videos. And that's actually how I found your videos, like putting in a search on Vietnam, doing my research, so on and so forth. Well, time is going on and things just aren't moving. Nobody's
Mm.
opening up, nobody's doing anything. When I became your customer, I think it was back in August of last year now. I still had Vietnam in mind. And we talked extensively about that. And you told me what the options were and you gave me a lot of contacts. It was still very difficult to get in. And, as you said, you could have gotten me in, but it would have been expensive. You're very honest about that. So we kept up the dialogue, kept up the dialogue. Finally, it's getting into fall, started to discuss Cambodia more as far as, their ease of restrictions and these kinds of things. And I think, pretty much, I guess maybe by about October, November, we kind of decided that was the way to go.
I mean, I have a good feeling, to be honest. I have a really good feeling about Cambodia because I've been there before. And I remember the first time that I was there, it was very underdeveloped, very dusty. I did not enjoy it at all. The second time I went there, I visited a friend who was an expat out there for about 12 years. And, he had a small business and I got to see a completely different side of the city. So I definitely appreciated it and enjoyed it more the second time. I ended up ultimately spending most of my time in Vietnam. But after watching what went on in Cambodia versus watching what happened in Vietnam, the stability of the government, the not throwing foreigners out, the not extorting foreigners, that if you can pay, you can stay, always being able to go to a grocery store if you need to. To me, that's a much easier government to work with. If you're, and you may not earn the same money as Vietnam, and you may not have as much beautiful things nearby as Vietnam, but if Vietnam does open to tourism, you can easily visit. And you're living in a country that has a more stable visa situation. And we have you entering the country initially on the correct visa. So there's none of this having to pay somebody money under the table to switch the visa. It's just coming into the country with all your shit worked out just in case there's a problem later. And I think that that's really valuable and quite a smart way to do it.
Yeah, well, peace of mind is worth a lot. The last couple of years I lived in China, things were just getting so dodgy, and that
Mm,
hangs over your head every day. The stories that you've heard about Vietnam, I've heard a lot of the same stories. And it's not to
mm.
say that they've treated all foreigners poorly, but there's been certainly enough stories to where it seems like a bit of a gamble. They're not what they were 2 years ago when I was doing my research. Let's put it that way. 2 years
Mm.
ago, Vietnam seemed like the cat's meow,
It was the
and
best place in the world.
not so much, it seems. Yet
It
not
was
not
the
right now. That could change.
it was the best place in the world, bro. Go on, go on.
Yeah, with Cambodia, I have not heard a single negative story about anything that's happened to anyone during the pandemic who's been there, any foreigners. Now, it's not to say they haven't occurred. I'm just saying I haven't heard any. Whereas these other places, I've heard plenty of stories. I've heard stories from Thailand, stories from Vietnam, stories out of China, all these different kinds of things. So I'm excited to go there. It seems like a great place to start. And of course, it's pretty awesome that you're going to be there at the same time too, man. It's good to
Hell
know
yeah.
somebody going in, man. That should be fun.
Well, that's what we do, man. We're gonna line it up. We're gonna have figure out a spot for you to stay. It's gonna be good times, man. I mean, listen, the only people
I
who really
appreciate it.
get mangled up in Cambodia are the people who get involved with like the drugs or like anything that's in like the nightlife that's a little shady. You got to be careful because it's a developing country and like life isn't worth very much. So, you do need to be cautious. But in terms of the government coming after you, that's just not happened over the whole pandemic. And I mean,
Correct.
for me, I don't know how much more valuable. Like you hear, of course, foreigners get robbed. Of course, these things happen, but like that happens in Vietnam too.
You said it happens in China too, man. It happens. It can happen anywhere.
Well,
Continue.
I was going to say, I work with visas. So I saw what happened and I saw it in a very real way with dollars and cents. And unless you really plan to open your own company or you plan to just work for a very big firm and like not have any problems or disruptions with that employer, then Vietnam's a kind of a shaky bet, man.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a big difference between shady governments and shady behavior. If I'm out at the bars at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and I'm drunk and running my mouth and I get in trouble, well, I only have myself to blame. If I go out and I'm, like doing cocaine or heroin or some kind of wacky thing and I get in trouble, I have myself to blame. What I don't like is sitting at home watching TV and wondering if they're just going to show up at my door one day and give me
Yeah.
shit. I'm not saying they're going to throw me in an underground dungeon I'm just saying, I've heard these stories where people just, boom, you got 2 weeks to leave. It's like, whoa, what?
Mhm.
No warning, anything. That I don't like. That I don't want. And Cambodia doesn't seem like they've done that to anybody that I know of.
I haven't seen anything about it. The biggest controversy was there was a young fella in Siem Reap who I think he was in a quarantine camp, and he was very vocal about it on social media. And shortly afterwards, the government released that that's not going to be happening as much anymore, because you'll have the option that if you get COVID to quarantine at either a home or like a hotel. And I think they may have possibly lost a little bit of face with that. So it seems like they've just immediately addressed it. And that to me is a sign of a government that really wants us there. And I think that's a big deal. That makes
Yeah,
Cambodia very valuable.
it
And because in
definitely
a lot
does.
of these other countries, they act like they don't really want us there, even though they need our money. They really do make it very difficult on foreigners.
Yeah, and it's strange how that has changed in not so much time. Like I said, Vietnam, it seems like the attitude has flipped just in the last 2 years. In China, I saw it change over 8.5 years. When I got there in 2011, man, foreigners were like gods. I mean, you could get great work, everybody treated you good, they wanted you there, the whole thing. By the time I left, it was like the polar opposite of that. Vietnam again has flipped in the last couple of years. Thailand, I don't know much about that, but from what I've heard, they just go back and forth all the time. Maybe
Yes.
like one month it's this way, the other month it's that way. So yeah, I mean the stability is a big deal. Because when you have that, you can focus on other things. You can focus on like your work. You can focus on your lifestyle. You don't have that extraneous stress to deal with.
I think it's really good, and it makes me very like positive about the feelings I have towards living out there and towards bringing customers there. And it also leaves you in a position where if either of the two countries, Vietnam or Thailand, were to relax, you would be in a really key position to just slide right over the border. I mean, if
But
ultimately,
yeah, you're right there in the region. These places start to open up and they decide, oh, yeah, we really do want foreigners again. And, we're ready to treat them good and stuff like that. Then we'll see what happens. I have a good feeling about Cambodia, to be honest. I have a strong feeling, especially working with you, that I'll be able to find good work. I've been watching some videos about Cambodia lately. It seems very clean. The people seem very nice. It has all those components of Southeast Asia that I really like. It's one of those things, man. If I have good work and I'm meeting good people and things are comfortable, I'm lazy. I'll stay right there, man. I'm not.
yeah. I mean, I'm thinking the same. I'll hang out there for a while too. I do want to see more of the world, and I have Latin America and India in my near future. But I mean, I don't mind just kicking it out there for like a year or so. I have a couple different project ideas I kind of want to work on, and it gives me an opportunity to really build a strong, firm network. So initially, our plan was we were just going to go from Vietnam next to Cambodia, because it's the logical conclusion. But with COVID and everything becoming so difficult to move around, and then when we finally left Saigon, when it was becoming very hostile and doing like extreme lockdowns, we left and we headed over here to the Balkans. My initial plan at the time would have been to go to Cambodia, but they were asking for a $2,000 deposit, which was not reasonable for me.
No. That was another thing you mentioned before that was disappointing was the idea of how the Vietnamese government was kind of blaming foreigners to a degree. And you were saying, I think, in one of your videos that you could kind of feel it in the street that people were starting to look at you in a more negative way. And I hate that because I was feeling the same thing in China when I left, man. You can feel the looks, and they weren't the same looks that they were before. They're those
Mhm.
looks of suspicion and disdain and that kind of thing. You want to deal with that every day. When you're green, you're a honeymooner, you can kind of blow it off. But after you've dealt with it for a while, you start to feel it more. That's not a good thing to have to deal with either.
And most of the Vietnamese were cool, but like you did notice a difference, especially after the election. And, I mean, Saigonese are cool because they like foreigners and they generally kind of are different than the northern people, but definitely was an increase. And my partners in Cambodia told me that they had similar experiences, but the difference was the government didn't do anything in terms of change of policy. So, I mean, yeah, you got some dirty looks, but you didn't have to worry about your visa getting canceled. So, you know,
Yeah. Right.
to me, that's a clear advantage. All the countries in Southeast Asia are going to be susceptible to the propaganda from China. Now, I don't know if it was the Vietnamese government that's saying that the foreigners were the cause. I think they were tolerating and maybe feeding into a certain amount of that. Like, I think there's a faction within the government there that's a little bit more pro-China, and then there's a faction within their government that's obviously more pro-America. Luckily, Vietnam is not China. they don't have a Xi Jinping. So the chances that a more open kind of policy could happen is better than China. So tell me a little bit about your time in China, because China's a lot different than Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand. Where were you in China and what were you doing there?
I was in Suzhou. It's about maybe an hour, 2 hour drive from Shanghai, going
Mm.
west, kind of a second tier city. Great place to live. I got there in 2011. I had a friend who lived there, and he was, I was living at the time. I was living in the States, doing the USA thing. Man, I had the career, the home, the furniture, the car, all that stuff, and it was just boring as all hell. I got to talk to my friend. He said you should try China. I went out there for a trial run, April of 2011, a couple weeks. I loved it. Came back, sold everything I had, moved out there. When I got there at first, again, foreigners were treated very well. It was very easy to find work. Lived in a hotel to start. Found work within, I don't know, probably a few weeks. Really just kind of, I would kind of say live the easy life, man, for a little while. It was nice. I liked the work and I liked living there. I was there with a friend. I made some friends. Fast forward a little bit. And I think we're going to do a China video at some point. So I'll get into some more details with that.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Yeah. So, fast forward a little bit. Like I said, things are going great. Everything's good. 2015, Xi Jinping takes power.
Mm.
And my friend really, he was pretty prophetic about it. He's like, this guy, Mao is his hero. This
Mm.
place is going to start going the way as it, like it was back then. He says, wait and see. And sure enough, man, slowly but surely, the attitude towards foreigners started to change. The attitude towards recreational activities started to change. A lot of things started to change. And over the course of like the next 4 or 5 years, people's attitudes towards us started to change. Now, not everyone's. I met a lot of great Chinese people. I got to be friends with a lot of Chinese people. I loved a lot of my students, but you could feel the change. They were becoming more arrogant, less tolerant, and
Mm.
they were just starting to crack down on a lot of stuff. By the end, it wasn't even a matter of cracking down. I mean, some of the stories, like the thing that with the Canadians, how they kept them captive, and I saw
Yeah.
stories about this foreigner down in the South. These Chinese guys started a fight with him. He defends himself. He goes to prison for like 2 or 3 years. And you just start hearing more of those stories. And it just became less and less comfortable. Yeah, that was by about 2019. So by the beginning of 2020, again, I was planning on kind of leaving anyway, but I ended up physically leaving, immediately speaking, because of the plague. But I don't have any desire to go back. I've told people if there was a regime change, and they went back to being more pro foreigner again, I'd go
Mm.
back. Money's good.
Yeah, me too.
Money's
Yeah,
great,
of course.
to be honest. I'm
I've
used
been
to
to
it.
China too.
Yeah. I learned the language. I've been around. I know the system, right? It's very comfortable. But things being as they are right now, I don't want to go back anytime soon.
Well, I would be very hard to get you back anyway. I have a good friend who is usually one of the people who I liaison customers to when they want to go to China. He's a foreigner who lived there for, I guess it was about 7 or 8 years, speaks fluent Chinese. He was one of my guys. Like if you paid for the China service, that's one of the main people that I gave you to, because I knew he'd put you in a good job and that he's a foreigner, so he'd care about what happens to you. Even he has a master's degree and he speaks Chinese and he's got extensive connections in the city of Qingdao. He can't get back into the country right now. So
Yeah.
even if you wanted to,
Right now I have a valid 10-year visa for China. My visa never expired. I mean, I'm good until, I don't know, 2027, but I still don't think I could get in. Although I haven't checked since the summer. Like back in the summer, I was just doing some research, looking into it. I talked to a couple people, and I think back mid to late summer, I just inquired for the heck of it to see if I could get in, and I still couldn't at that point. But since you and I started working together, I kind of put it on the back burner. But
it's hard to get a PU letter right now. It's not an easy thing. Like I had a guy for a while who had a back door through Inner Mongolia, but that closed. We just tried recently to test it and it's not happening. So Vietnam right now would probably be the closest thing to China in terms of like still being able to get in, high salaries, but there's that unpredictability of whether or not they're going to swing left or swing right. And it's very hard to say if they're going to remain trying to keep the country closed or try to open it. They've convinced themselves that they want to become more of an industrial country and they don't want the tourism, but they have a lower GDP than the Philippines. So whether or not that ends up being reality is really questionable. I mean, maybe there will come a point, because they're in ruins financially, There may come a point where they're going to just have to go and allow the tourists back in. But I'm very suspicious that the days of just running over the borders and, endlessly extending visas for little bits of money, I think that's in the past. So I think Cambodia is possibly what Vietnam was about maybe 5 years, 6 years ago. In many ways, could be one of the last frontiers where you can still have that kind of ESL rock star lifestyle and not necessarily have to worry about being deported or having excessive blacklist fines. It seems like it's still pretty civilized. But I do caution people, if you're going to come in, it's best to come in on the right paperwork. Just because things are cool now, Paul here can tell you, something's cool, something's cool, something's cool, and then suddenly something's not cool.
Oh God, Southeast Asia, man, things change. They do. They change daily. I mean, you say that in your videos, and people might think you're being facetious, but no, that's true. You'll hear a policy one day, the next day it changes, and then you hear, and then maybe it changed a week ago, but you didn't hear anything about it. It's hard to keep up with sometimes.
They're very quick to change rules, and the implementation can happen very quickly. It's not like here, I'm in Albania at the moment, and they just changed the visa from a 1 year visa for Americans to a 90-day visa within
Smart.
180 days because
That's
they're
not.
trying to get in compliance with the European Union because they want to join the EU, even though the EU will never let them join.
Oh, that's why they did that. I wasn't sure why they did that.
It's because they're trying to get in line with EU compliance, but it's never been good for any of these Southern European countries to join the EU. It's usually just good for like big German investment and for like the oligarchs of a country. So I personally hope that they don't join the EU. But unfortunately, I think that this move of removing the 1 year visas down to 90 days, I think this is where it's coming from. They're trying to get in compliance with EU standards.
Yeah, I sent you a message about this the other day. It's all baffling to me. In my mind, it makes good sense that if a country is hurting, that they would want to keep people there who are spending their money there. But what do I know? I don't know.
Well, here in Albania, the good thing is that yeah, they've changed how they're doing it, but like the residency process is much cheaper and easier for us to set up companies and like opening up stuff in places like Vietnam. Like, yeah, we can open a company for you in Vietnam, but you're going to need 1 billion VND, which is like 45,000 US dollars to invest to their economy. Basically, you're going to have to put it into a Vietnamese bank and hold it. So some people can do that. A lot of people can't do that.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
here in the Balkans, the investment capital is like $1,000, and they just created a digital nomad visa. They created a retirement visa, even though nobody has a fucking clue how it works yet. The reason I had brought them up was because here, when a rule changes, nobody knows what's going on for like a long amount of time.
yeah,
In Vietnam or in Cambodia, China, these places, when they change a rule, it might take a couple weeks for it to change, but it's changed. And then when they change it back, it's the same thing. It's like flicking a light switch.
sure. Does Cambodia have a retirement visa?
They do.
Do they?
They
That's cool.
do.
I mean, I
They
definitely, I mean, I want to be in Southeast Asia forever. I mean, to be honest, I mean, I'm a little bit flexible with which countries I live in, but that's something, I plan on, having my savings and retiring there. I don't. The United States, it's just boring. It's expensive. I have family here. I have people here I like, but the lifestyle there is really, it's right in my wheelhouse, and yeah, I definitely want to retire there, but who knows? By the time I'm ready to retire, who knows what the deal will be? It's a long way off, but I just wanted to ask. Maybe the viewers would want to know. I don't know.
No, it's good stuff, man. They're much more flexible. It's much easier than the Thailand one also. So if you do like the country, it's just the whole process is a lot easier. So you're a real teacher, right? Like you're an actual teacher. You have like a higher education. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm a career teacher. I went to school. My bachelor's degree was basically in like environmental geology, and then I got a master's in education. So I decided I
Cool.
wanted to teach. And I remember after I finished graduate school, I moved out to Washington State with some friends of mine. They were doing like a wilderness survival school or something. I decided to just go out there with them, just young. Hey, yeah, let's try it out. We lived in a house kind of in the countryside a little. It was on this long road, but there were school districts on either side, like at one end of the road and at the other end, there were these school districts. So I ended up substitute teaching in both districts for a year. I got a reputation for myself. And then a job opportunity came up in one of them the next year, and I got hired for that. And then I started my official career. I taught Washington, the full-time regular, the curriculum, the whole thing for 2 years. I taught like physical science and math and a little biology. And then I moved to New York State after that, and I got a job teaching earth science, which is actually what I wanted to teach. That was my main thing. So I did that for a couple of years, but I never quite liked living in the States, and I got done with that last year of teaching there, the last one that I did here. I don't know. I felt depressed. I
Right.
never feel depressed, but I did. Corny as it may sound, I did a little soul searching out in the woods, did a lot of hiking that summer, the whole thing. Now, it was kind of one of those things. It's like you've done everything right up to this point in your life. You've done everything you're supposed to do. You've reached that pinnacle, that goal that you were going to achieve, and you're just bored out of your mind.
Yes.
That's just where I was at. So I decided at that point that I was going to have to try something radically different. I came back to my hometown and I got a job in a bank for a couple of years, which I actually liked. That was a pretty cool job. I worked with some good people there and I had health benefits and all that. And right at the end of that experience is when I talked to my friend about China and ended up moving there. When I was in China, I taught English, I taught math, taught some science, mostly English, make no mistake. I would say mostly English with some math and science sprinkled in at times. But I like
Mm.
teaching English, to be honest. I actually enjoyed it. I like teaching English to Southeast Asian people more than I liked teaching science and math to kids in the US by far. Just a
Mm.
lot more enjoyable, a lot more interesting.
I
So,
was teaching, and I'm not entirely sure if you call it teaching, but I would show up to a public school with 60 kids sweating my balls off.
dude,
And
I don't
I would
know
say, duck,
how
duck, duck.
I don't know how in the hell you did that, man. I can't, dude, I can't handle the heat. Now you might think that probably sounds funny because I'm going to Cambodia and it's a furnace, but that's how much
Yeah.
I'm going to Cambodia despite the heat, not because of it. So you know those stories about teaching public school to all those kids with no air conditioning, dude, I couldn't physically handle that. Not only does it sound miserable, but I would fucking just die. I'd stroke out on the floor or something, man. Must be in pretty good physical condition for that shit.
I just didn't give a shit. I just knew there was nothing I could do to control this situation. And that if I was going to get myself all angry, the only thing I was going to do was stress me out. I could have worked with places with air conditioning. I mean, I could have went the language center route, but I went the public school route because I'm a completely unqualified goof and I didn't want any responsibility. So like as
Well,
soon as I got done working, that was the end of it.
they pay pretty good though, to be fair. I mean, you were telling me about the pay. I mean, it's pretty good. That same situation with those kids, if it was air conditioned, I would do it.
Some schools have AC, but it's usually the schools in the areas where there's a lot of party officials. So, like
Yeah.
in Saigon, if in parts of District 1 where there's like a lot of government employees, those kids might have air conditioning. Like sometimes the recruiters, the agencies will be bidding for contracts with the schools. And with the contract, they'll throw in aircon if they can get the parents to pay for the contract. So there's things like that do happen. But like I was working in some public schools next to open construction sites with huge amounts of dust, black dust just piled up, and the schools are open. So, the dust just blows through the school. So we're inhaling like
And the
construction
sweat, and
material.
it's sticking to the sweat on your face, right?
Yeah, I'm pouring sweat. I got 60 fucking grade 1 kids like grabbing and pulling on me. And I'm
Uh,
sick with pneumonia every fucking 2 weeks. Like
uh,
I did that for like 3, 4 years before I started this consulting business.
wow. Like I said, man, I couldn't do that. But that's cool, man. They got to be tough. Got to be tough. I did public school in China for about a year. It was, they gave me, they give you no plan, they give you no
The
material.
same.
They just throw you in there and say,
Hmm.
do it. And they'll talk to you if you do something bad, but they don't tell you if you do anything good. The first month and a half, I was going insane. And then finally one day, it hit me. I'm just going to show movies all day. Fortunately, we had computers and internet. It was Chinese internet, which was pretty horrible, but it was good enough. And I just started showing movies every single day. And it was good after that. I mean, I would do some things. I'd write some words on the board, like, and stuff like that to just, kind of give it a little more of an educational feel. But they never said anything about it. The kids liked it more. I liked it more. It was cool. The primary school, I didn't do that. The primary school, I created some PowerPoints and stuff and work with that, but that was okay. But
I had chalk. I had chalk and a sticky ball. So what I did was first I got on to slap the board, right? Slap the board was the game, but they would get too aggressive and they'd start fighting each other. And like the TAs would like sometimes you have a TA that's like real abusive and then the kids are under control. Like she'll run around smacking them and screaming at them. But there's other ones who just don't give a shit and they'll sit there texting and it's just fucking melee. So slap the board got violent. So eventually I replaced it with throw the sticky ball at the word, which is like the same thing as slap the board, but it's a sticky ball. So there's less chance they're going to start hurting each other.
Yeah, I had no TA.
How many kids?
Let me see. The middle school, those classes were about 40 or 50, I think.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot.
The primary school, I did middle school 4 times a week, and I did primary school on Fridays. Primary school class was maybe 20 or 25. But the
Oh,
middle
that's not too bad.
No, that wasn't bad. The middle school class was huge, though.
I did all primary because I don't want to have to use my brain. So like I did grade 1 through 5, so I could come there and I could be like thinking about business plans or like imagining where I want to travel to. And just kind of like what I learned over time was the trick is to automate the class. What I would do is I would walk in the room and I'd say, who wants the power? And as soon as one of the kids were like, I want the power, I'm all right. You speak some English. You pick the teams, you pick the kids, you pick the game, you get one of your friends to help you, and you guys run the game. And I'm gonna sit over here and make sure nothing happens. And then I just turn off my brain for fucking 35 minutes.
It's a good idea. I'll tell you, man, there's a lot of tricks in the tricks of the trade. I remember even as a first year teacher in Washington State, I had a lot of the schools I worked at were great. I mean, I had no complaints about my colleagues. They were great people. But I had a number of teachers taught me some of those tricks that can make life easier. Whereas like each one would do a few tricks. I took all the tricks and put them into one package and tried to make things as easy as I could for myself. But in any case, yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do. You know, again, with the primary school, there was some structure to that because the class was small. But at middle school, no TA, no plan, no nothing. Put them in a room. I didn't have anything to work with really. Like I think I had a whiteboard. I had the computer. So I tried a lot of different things, but it was just raucous. Here's another important thing too. The class doesn't count for anything, right? So these guys are under pressure all day in these classes to perform and get graded and stuff. And then they come to my class that doesn't count for anything and there's nothing in the room. If I was a kid, I wouldn't be too motivated either. I mean, it was like, it's like an in-school field trip every day, more or less, you know?
See, for us, it was more like, look at the circus monkey. So they would bring in the foreigner and everybody goes crazy. It's like a rock concert. You know, and they're fucking hugging you and they love you and it's cool. It's great. But I wasn't allowed to fail anybody because then if you fail the kids, they don't re-sign the contract. And if you fucking fail them and they don't re-sign the contract, then the company gets mad. So I was only allowed to give out of 1 through 10, I was only allowed to give a 7 as the lowest. So if I said to some kid, "What's your name?" and he just looked at me and said, "I'm fine, thank you," and you, that motherfucker got a 7 no matter what. So nobody gave a shit anyway.
Yeah. You know, I've seen some of the Crusaders rip their hair out. And you mentioned
me too.
this, right? People who come in, they've got these very rigid ideas of what teaching should be. And they've got these beautiful lesson plans and things should be this way and things should be that. And then they get into the reality of it and they go nuts. They either, honestly, there's two choices at that point. They can either adjust to the Vietnamese or the Chinese, or they can leave. Because they ain't going to adjust to you. That ain't going to happen.
No.
And the ones who learn to adjust and roll with the punches will eventually do okay. The ones who are not able to do that will not last. That's it.
I think they're narcissistic personality types because they somehow seem to think they have this grand understanding of the entire world and how everybody else should function and think. And they don't realize that they're in a different country that has a completely different perspective and different value system. And they perceive the world in a completely different way. And like whether or not their way is a good way or a bad way, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to change, just like you said. So, I mean, this is, you know, one of the things I think why a lot of people will look at Cambodia, but they won't necessarily last out there is because, you know, in China, you got the big money, you got the resources, In Vietnam, you got pretty good money. You didn't get a whole lot of resources unless you worked in like specific, sectors of the ESL business. Whereas in Cambodia, of course, they're going to have some schools for the elite as well. And that's where you with a master's degree are going to fit in. But a lot of the industry out there is going to be paid less than Vietnam. It's going to be much more of a circus. And like if you don't kind of go with the flow and just enjoy the fact that you're living in this country and that they have some use for you, then you're going to go completely fucking bonkers. Because if you're like one of these people who needs rigid control, you're going to really struggle in Southeast Asia and like, Cambodia, Vietnam. This is going to make your fucking head explode.
That's true. And to me, the one way that a person can give themselves a chance at some measure of control is to scrutinize the contract. Scrutinize that contract. It's a pain in the ass, right? It's boring, but go over it with a fine-toothed comb. Do not allow anything ambiguous to be in there. Everything should be defined. You get that stuff right out of the way, because they'll put little things in there like, you might have to, teacher will agree to do extra activities as defined by the school. Or, materials should be provided on a basis that is suitable to. No, you tell me what it is and how it is, or you take it out. And if that's not okay, I'll find another job. That was one thing I learned in Southeast Asia, I think. You look over that contract, make sure everything is as the way you want it, or be ready to walk. Because once that thing is signed, anything ambiguous, not all, but a lot of schools will roll with that. They'll take that horse and just ride. And you don't want that.
And honestly, even that now with the COVID world, there's no guarantees, because what a lot of companies in Vietnam have been doing is, and I don't want to name drop because I don't want to create massive amounts of drama for myself with a country I do business in, but I'll just say it like this, like some bigger companies that are directly connected to people in authority, they do things sometimes like they'll have a foreigner agree to a contract. And then as soon as the foreigner gets off the plane, they'll switch the contract. And then they'll say, listen, if you don't want to sign, we're going to cancel your visa. And now this is COVID time, so you might have spent a fortune to get over there. I mean, or it's possible that they might have agreed to sponsor you because they can't get anybody in the country that's willing to work for them, because people who live in the country know the reputation, but they figure they can get a sucker from outside. And once you're there, it's going to be easier to pressure you to just do whatever the contract says. So, this is why I think what we do has a real value is like, especially, Vietnam, we have such a strong reach into the teaching industry that like we have a whole lot of different ways we can help somebody get into the country. And with Cambodia, we have the connections into people who are really honest with the business visas. We're compiling email lists for employers. So we're just growing and growing and growing with this. And it's going to make the process a lot less stressful. You're not going to have to worry about dealing with shady actors. You're not going to have to worry about paying money on the side to change the tourist visa. And maybe this week you can do it, and next week you can't do it. It's just, we try to simplify everything. Have you found that working with us has been really helpful overall?
Very helpful. And actually, I was just going to say, you're absolutely right about the contracts. And that's why I said the best way to give yourself a chance of having some control is to go over the contract. But even with everything I've learned living in Southeast Asia, I would not be comfortable going naked into Cambodia without assistance. Absolutely. Because it is a crapshoot, Just being starkly honest, I feel much more comfortable knowing that you're going to be there, but knowing that you have your connections there, knowing that people who can hook me up with people who are not likely to pull those kinds of tricks. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what we try to do. And I really think it's very helpful for people who just don't want to be bothered dealing with the bullshit. Like there are people out there who are like, I just want to show up. I want it to be a cruisy, easy transition, and I want to have everything prepared for me. And I feel like what we do, it really fills that niche. And I feel like I made the right choice, because I looked at the market living out there and I looked at the problems foreigners were having. And then what I experienced through Vietnam with the visa purges and all that, and bringing people into the country, and what I learned about how these countries do business and about business culture out there, I think it's really been a pretty wild journey. And it's amazing that you've been like watching us and with us through this whole thing. And, I really appreciate that.
No, you have a great service. I just recommended you. I know a girl, she's going to be looking to move back to Southeast Asia, probably in a couple of years. She's going back to school for now. but she knows a couple other people. I just recommended your service to them. You know, to be honest, one of the things that makes me comfortable, I mean, I became a customer in August, right? And we talk almost every day about stuff, you know. It's a much more comfortable thing. The job contacts, the lodging, the supplies, like all of that stuff. You know, yeah, I mean I can do it, I could do it all myself, but it makes it a lot easier. And I feel like it makes it a lot less likely that I'm going to make the kind of mistakes that can be very expensive. I made mistakes in China. I mean, I think about your service fee. I made mistakes in China that mistakes with little things that when totaled up probably ended up being 3 times more what you charge or more, right? So yeah, it definitely seems worth it. And I mean, I could tell watching your videos and talking to you that you understood Asia at the level that I understood it. So that's why I was pretty comfortable becoming a customer for sure.
Well, I really appreciate the kind words and taking the time to talk to us today and giving your perspective on why you're choosing Cambodia over, other parts of Southeast Asia. And I think we're in agreement. I think we both see a lot of the similar benefits to what Cambodia is offering. And, I think it's really a place to keep your eyes on for the future. I would say, guys, you should definitely check out our videos on how to open businesses in Cambodia. We were working with a gentleman before. He was one of our original partners on the project of starting our service in Cambodia, but we're not working with him anymore, so we can offer services even cheaper than those initial videos were quoted. So you guys can message me and we can get you a much better price than our original Cambodia videos had quoted, but it's worth watching those videos because again, it's perspective on what's going on at that time. Now we have a local Khmer partner for our visa services, and she's fantastic. And what happens, guys, is once you pay and you work with us, we include business visa contacts with our initial fee. But after that, that person is your contact. So you can use them and get the best possible prices. You're not paying my fee over and over and over. The only time that I would ever ask for more money would be if like a different project in a different country. But like for contacts within the country while we're working together, if in 6 months from now, 1 year from now, you need 2 new visa agents, you need a new real estate person, you need somebody to find you something, we're going to take care of that. So I think there's a real value in that. Guys, thanks for watching the video. Subscribe, share, check out our other channel, the New York Nomad. It's our more travel focused channel. We're going to be posting lifestyle content, and we do a lot of like pretty decent live streams on there. I feel like we're getting better, but I think this video is very important because I wanted to show you guys somebody who has worked with us for Cambodia and they're having success and they're happy with the service. Can you leave them with some final thoughts on why you think Cambodia is a much better spot than other destinations right now in Southeast Asia?
The stability of it, the fact that I have not heard any negative stories about foreigner treatment there since COVID started, right? I've heard plenty of bad stories from Thailand, from Vietnam, from China, these kinds of places, right? Cambodia seems to be very friendly towards foreigners still. And like from everything I've seen on video anyway, it's very clean. They treat people pretty good. There's plenty of work prospects there. And it has all those things in Southeast Asia that I look for. And it just seems like a great place to be for a foreigner right now, you know? I mean, I can't really say much more about it than that. The rest I'll learn as I get there and as I go. But I'm very happy about the choice, and I'm very happy about your efforts to get me in and to get us in. It should be a pretty good time.
Well, I hope we'll have everything set up to your liking. And guys, I'm glad you had a chance to meet Paul and ask him some, see some of the questions that I ask him. Hopefully some of those questions are some of the questions you're concerned with. His entire process from start to finish was like in less than like 2 weeks, he had everything. He's just waiting a little bit before he enters, but you received a 90-day business visa, right?
That's right. Yep.
He's just ready to enter, and you'll be coming in another month from now.
My flight leaves here on March 7th. So I got some things to wrap up here still for then. I have to enter before April 19th. So I have stuff to wrap up here. I'm hoping I don't test positive for COVID before the flight. That's the only thing I could see right now that could ever be an issue. And even if it does happen, I've got some time to where I could reschedule after that. So yeah, March 7th.
That's great. And you had not really any drama dealing with the consulate, right? You used the consulate in DC.
No drama whatsoever. Once I got those documents, it was extremely easy and cheap. I mean, the visa from the embassy cost like $35. And I think all the mailing involved cost me like $40.
I mean, fantastic. One of the guys who is an American that we're working with right now, they're kind of asking him for like little specific things that were kind of weird. They wanted a work contract, and for US passport holders, like the agent I have, she's willing to do that. But for other developing countries, she's not. So if for some reason, like you're an American or you're applying in Europe, and then they wanted to have some sort of a contract, we could figure something out to solve that. But like for the less developed countries, unfortunately, that's not available. Like some countries we still can issue the invitation letters. We can still arrange everything. She's told me it's no problem. She's just not willing to sign work contracts. So, there are limits to what some of these agents are willing to do. And I don't want to just work with somebody who says they can do anything, because, that makes me a little suspicious. I like a little bit when one of the people, a sponsor company or an agent, they have some standards of their own, because that tells me that they're looking out for the interest of not getting in trouble, not just their interest, but the interest of the customer. Because obviously whatever they're doing it in a way they know they can do it.
Sure, that makes sense.
So anyway, guys, the main thing that you have to understand about Southeast Asia, it's who you know, not what you know. And it's very, very much about knowing the person who knows how to handle the problem. And that's true across all of Southeast Asia. Anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe, share. I hope you guys enjoyed the videos. Comment, like, share the videos on Facebook. If you guys are interested in coming to Cambodia, Vietnam, we're expanding services. We're going to start helping people open companies for long-term residence visas in countries all over the world. You can message me. It's a fully legal process. There's nothing shady about it. I'll explain everything in detail. The business is just growing this year, guys. We might even, while we're in Cambodia, attempt to create the Great New York Nomad TEFL. So, we already have a site. It's called the New York TEFL Academy. It's the TEFL You Cannot Fail. But we're going to possibly create the New York Nomad TEFL Academy TEFL course. If things go well this year, maybe we'll rent a villa and we'll have a little TEFL-thon. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe, share. Thanks for being with us, Paul, and answering all these questions. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Subscribe to our other channel, the New York Nomad. Everybody be safe and travel the world, because life is short.
Brush your face and wash your teeth, son.
Yo, my man got me a job. Come to Vietnam.
The white monkey got me a job during the pandemic.
The white monkey got me into Vietnam during COVID.
The white monkey got me into Vietnam during the pandemic. I'm at school now on break. If he did it for me, he can do it for you. It's pretty easy. Check him out.
Ooh, to whom it may concern, White Monkey Syndicate got me the job of all jobs. Thank you.
White monkey got me a job. Brush your teeth.
The White Monkey Syndicate got me a job, aka your father.
White monkey got me a job.
White Santa, baby, brush your teeth.
Monkey got me a job, hit him up.
Yo, it's the Whoopi Goldberg of the ESL game, educating me youngins in the English.
Monkey got me a motherfucking job.
White Jesus, baby.
White monkey got me a job.
Brush your teeth.
Hey, what's up, guys? You thinking about coming to Vietnam? You're not sure where to start. You've heard a lot of things online. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's not. We here at the White Monkey Syndicate offer a consulting service where we help you get on your feet in Vietnam. We give you advice on negotiating contracts with employers. We help you with real estate agents, visa agents that are reliable and that you can trust. We help you get started in this amazing country and get on your feet. We help you get into different opportunities that might be more difficult for you if you were just landing in the country on your own. And we help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and problems that you could have as a newcomer here. We provide you with reliable job recruiters, visa agents, real estate agents, and advice. If you guys are thinking about coming to Vietnam, hit us up for a consultation. We'll help you get started, help you get on your feet, and hopefully you'll love Vietnam as much as we do. What do you think of when you think of Albania? I think of opportunity. I think of a country that's open. I think of a country that wants long-stay expats, that wants people to come and invest, wants new ideas, and is looking towards the West. I think that Albania is a beautiful country with incredible landscapes that can offer a very comfortable lifestyle at a very reasonable price. We at the White Monkey Syndicate will help navigate your journey to becoming an expat in Albania. We're working with some of the top lawyers in the city. We can help establish businesses. We can help you get your residency. We can help you get real estate. We can arrange almost any contact that you might need for the process of moving here in almost any city in the country. We will simplify the process. We'll make it a lot easier for you to move to a country that maybe in the past would have been more of a challenge. With our help, it's going to be a walk in the park.